Hello everyone, this is Iggy from Iggy's Toy Parade and Soldier Review, and today we're going to take a look at a World War II tank model of the M3 Lee. Now, when I say a model, I'm using that term loosely. This is more of a toy than it is a model. Serious model makers would probably be somewhat bored putting something like this together. It's only 36 pieces, and the average tank model probably has about 200 pieces. So, unless it's a modeler whose main interest is in painting, uh, this particular kit would not be of much fun or interest to them. Now, for a layman like myself, I enjoy models, but I'm not good at them. I get too impatient. I rush to build, and I get glue everywhere, and I end up not doing a very good job because of my impatience. But this particular kit is manufactured by Newray. This one here was made in 2020. Now, some of you might look at this and go, gee, that looks kind of familiar. I think the reason for that is Testers had launched a line of kits that you assemble. And the packaging looked identical to this. Now, I don't know if Newray was building these kits for Testers, or if Testers had their own line and Newray subsequently purchased it from them. Testers has gone through a lot of changes. It was a company founded by a Swedish man, Nils Testers, back in 1929. He was a Swedish immigrant to the United States and had done quite well in the 1950s and 60s selling paint. Now, modelers would remember the square glass bottles that the Testers paint came in. Every kid probably had Testers paint. At some point, they introduced these models that you could assemble. Now, Newray also featured battery-operated tanks that you'd flip the switch and they would move forward. Now, the problem with it, they weren't remote control, so as soon as you flip the switch, there was only a limited amount of distance it could go before it would go off the table or go beyond your reach. At that time, they had released Tiger tanks and a Sherman tank, and I think they might have had a Jeep. I don't think the Jeep was motorized, though. Now, this one particular here, you can notice here there's a sticker that says non-battery operated, model tank only. And it looks like it was made for Hobby Lobby. This is where I bought it, because there's also a sticker on here that says Hobby Lobby. Now, this particular model, I went into Hobby Lobby because they said they had 40% off. And I thought, well, I'd like to get one of these. And you can imagine my surprise and delight when I saw this up here. $3.74. So if you guys go out to Hobby Lobby now, there might still be a couple of them left on the shelves. This one I haven't opened yet. I wanted to talk about it a little bit more before I opened it. But let's take a look at the back of the box. And it says here that it's an unassembled model kit, and it gives pictures of the tank. Now, this particular one, what is the difference between an M3 Lee and an M3 Grant? Now, the British Armor Commission came to the United States in 1941 and in desperate need of armaments because they lost a lot of their equipment in France when they retreated to Dunkirk and then across the Channel. They had to virtually leave everything behind in order to get their army out. So they were looking for armor, and the United States had just itself was rearming for a possible war in Europe. In 1941, they passed legislation authorizing the creation of a larger armor and planes and troops and everything, because they were in 1941 we actually had one of the smallest armies in the world. At the beginning of World War I, oddly enough, the Italian army was the biggest army, which surprises everyone when they hear that, but they did have the largest army at the time. Now, the M3 Lee can be distinguished from the Grant by the size of the turret. This here. The Grant tank, which was the British tank approved by the British Armor Commission, they came over and they bought, I think they purchased 1,000 of them. And they were used mostly in North Africa. And the reason why they weren't used beyond that is because by 1943, new German models made this tank obsolescent. It could not compete with, say, a Panther or a Tiger, and could barely stand up to a Panzer IV. However, against Panzer I, II, and III, this particular tank was well armed with a 75 millimeter gun. It had in the turret a 37 millimeter gun, and it had a cupola on the top there. So one of the disadvantages of this tank is that it's got a pretty high profile. So it would be easier to spot on the horizon than, say, a Panzer III or IV. So those were disadvantages of it. It did have some fairly good armor in the front. Another disadvantage would be the sponson mounting of the main gun. Now, the sponson is this right here. Now, that was typical of 19th century battleships. The guns that they had amidships would be their smaller guns, mounting a 5-inch gun, and they were mounted in what they called sponsons along the waist of the battleship. And their main guns were in the front, and they were probably, at that time, 19th century, they were probably a 9-inch or 10-inch or something like that. Okay, so what I wanted to do is also show you an illustration that shows the difference between the tanks. So let's see if I can do that here. I haven't practiced this. This should be interesting. Okay, here's an illustration. And I just knocked the camera over. And I knocked the model kit over. Yeah, let's see. Okay, so here we have the American version of the tank. And you'll notice that the turret is looks like it's been pinched in the front. And I say that because when you look at the Grant tank, you can see the difference. So let's move the camera a little. Okay, there's the Grant version. And you see that the turret is a little bit rounder and hangs over the superstructure a little bit more than the American version, which is up here. Okay, let me see if I can straighten this out. Everything fell over when I brought the book over. Okay, So before we continue on, I'll show you this over here. I brought up Newray's catalog page on my laptop, and this shows what their current offerings are. Now they also, Newray used to also offer these half tracks before. Why isn't it moving? There we go. This shows the M3 right there, and the Sherman that they also sell. You can get both of those at Hobby Lobby. Well, maybe for a limited time. It looks like they're clearance now. And there's the half tracks. I couldn't find any evidence of their other tanks, but I brought up the page over here to show you that. And that's their, they used to sell King Tigers and a Tiger 1, and of course the Sherman. All right, so let's return to the model kit itself. I spent $50 on a tripod for the camera, and it's a real piece of crap. I'm sorry to say. It's always falling over because of the weight of the camera. So if I was to give a review of this tripod, it's called the Vloggers set. I got it at Target, and I do not recommend it. It's pretty junky. For $50, I guess you can't really expect much. I think I have to sneeze. Excuse me. Brought to you live by Iggy's Toy Parade. Well, let's take a look at this. Let's open it up. I don't know if this is going to work. Let's move this over here. Now, I'm not going to put it together because I think it would take too long for me to assemble this. But we'll give you an idea of what the contents are like. And see right away that the bottom portion that features the road wheels and tracks is already assembled. Partially. Let's turn it this way. It looks like you have to put the road wheels together. And here is the main body of the tank. And it's all one piece, so you can see there, you're not going to, like if this was a regular model kit, they would have you add the door on, and the sponson and gun, and this hatch, and these details here you would probably add on. But in this case, all of that has been done for you already. Okay, so there's the top of the tank, and the rest of it is all road wheels, basically, and the turret. So you're required to assemble the suspension and the road wheels onto the chassis, which we have here. The tracks are like rubber bands. You can see that right away. Without the road wheels on here, it's sagging. Also, it doesn't have the support rollers, so you'll have to put those on too. Comes with a little screwdriver. Here's some screws. I have no idea what that is. That just fell on the floor. So I imagine it would probably not take very long to assemble this because you don't have to do a lot. So there you go. There's the Newray non-motorized M3 Lee tank. Okay, so there's one more thing I wanted to share with you. This is definitely not going the way I had planned it. The best plans of mice and men. Who you can't calling a rat? That's what Mo would say. Okay, I wanted to share something that was given to me a couple years ago by my friend Mike. This painting right here. Let's get these other things out of the way so we can get a nice look at it. Now this is an original painting. This is not a poster or a print. And it was made by some guy by the name of Michael Conley. Now I looked him up. There is an artist by the name of Michael Conley, but this is definitely not by him. It is of a tiger tank, and it looks, of course, like it's from the battles in France after the D-Day invasion. It's an original painting, and I'll turn it around. It says here that it's been dedicated to a man named Charles Patton back in 1983 by the artist. So this is signed by the artist. I can find out absolutely nothing about this online. I tried looking up Charles Patton. I tried looking at Michael Conley, and I had no luck. But it's a pretty cool painting. Up in the corner there, you can see some bombers with taking flak from the ground, and the bombed out buildings could be KN or Khan. I don't know how you say it, but I thought you guys might enjoy that. I think my friend said he got it for $1, which is, when someone doesn't appreciate something, they'll sell it for $1. To me, this is worth a lot more than $1, but I'm not the one who was selling it. Well, that's it for me. I'm glad that you got Iggy with it. Despite my best efforts to present you with a more professional-looking video, everything kind of fell apart there. But check out that sale at Hobby Lobby. You might be able to get this tank for a really cheap price. Even assembled tanks don't even go that cheap. They're at $3.74 is a pretty good price. Thanks for coming by and getting Iggy with it. I hope everything is well for you and your family. I'd like to say from sitting in the cowboy kitchen, happy trails, and don't forget to subscribe. The videos I'm trying to make them better, and I'm learning as I go. But thanks for your patience, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Good night, guys.